you a little background information on how I started in software engineering. My name's Hank McLaughlin. I'm senior software engineer for Leafly, which is, if you went on our website, we're a marketplace for cannabis-related news and products. If you asked me what we do, it's Yelp and Order Up for weed, basically. I started in college. The iPhone came out while I was a freshman at Virginia Tech. For a little while, there weren't that many people who knew Objective-C. Macs were only like 4% of all computers at the time. So the fact that I knew it meant that I could bid on jobs online for like a really short period, like 3 to 6 months. If you knew Objective-C, you could charge whatever you wanted hourly to build iOS apps. So I stopped going to class and started charging like $300 an hour to make iOS apps. I failed out of college and decided to just not go back and keep doing that. My first job was working for a company called Excella, which is in Baltimore, but there's no office. It's like I'll telecommute. That was pretty cool. We built apps for Runner's World magazine and a few other, that's like the biggest client we had. After that, my wife worked at Shock Trauma and I worked from home, so I didn't see daylight for days at a time, so I needed to get out of the house. So I started working for MindGrub, which is a consulting company in Baltimore. They're basically the same type of company. We built apps for the Maryland Lottery, BGE, a whole slew of others. You could check out their website if you felt like it. When I left there, I was the director of software engineering. It turns out I like writing code a lot better than I like managing, so I decided to go work for Black & Decker. I worked for their R&D team, where we built prototypes for different products. And I got to write code for self-driving lawnmowers and systems that located Bluetooth tools on job sites, stuff like that. That was pretty cool, but R&D teams just burn through money like no other, so eventually, as soon as someone wants to cut a budget, you're the first job to get cut. We didn't get cut, but I kind of saw that on the horizon, started looking for other jobs. An old friend from MindGrub had just started at Leafly. The old owner of Order Up had sold the company, but his friend was the CEO of Leafly. So they were focusing on delivery and pickup of weed. So they hired back their Order Up team because that's literally what they had been doing for the past 5 years. And they needed an extra Android developer, so here I am. And I mainly do, pretty much my entire background has been iOS and Android development. I'm teaching you web stuff today because last year I did an Android demo, so just trying to keep it fresh. Does everybody have the GitHub downloaded? Cool. All right, then I guess we'll probably just get into it. Is anybody not comfortable with command line stuff? There's 4 commands we have to do, and then it's all in the IDE. Perfect, computer science students, awesome. All right, so the first thing you're gonna do is open up your terminal, however you do that, either CMD in Windows or just regular terminal. In Mac, which you can find in Applications, Utilities, and Terminal, which is down here. So I'm going to type out the commands that I'm going to enter on here because you won't be able to see my terminal. Well, maybe I can make it bigger. Hold on one second. Maybe we should turn the lights down. Looks kind of.
Yeah.
Can people read that in the back? Cool, awesome. All right, so you're going to want to, let's see, I'm already in this directory, which I don't want to be in. Yeah, no. All right. I didn't download the file, so give me a second. That's loud. so everybody should be in the directory that contains your index.html and nothing else. Good? Okay, cool. So the first thing you're going to do is run npm init, which all this is going to do is generate a file called package.json, which is just information about your project. So it's going to ask you for a name. You can pretty much just hit return through this whole thing. If you feel like giving your project a special name, feel free. But we don't have a version number or any keywords or an author name or anything like that. It's going to ask you if that's okay. You can just hit return, which the default is yes. And now you should have 2 files in your directory, your index.html and package.json. And I'm going to do clear and do that again so you can actually see this. Everybody good with that? All right, so we're going to use 2 libraries for this, Express and socket.io. Express is a web router, so essentially you hit a web server, your server / whatever comes after that. This is what essentially routes that traffic to a specific block of code. And socket.io is a WebSocket library, so it allows communication between 2 clients so that you can send data back and forth without constantly hitting a server for data. Yes?
So it was just ls after all that?
You don't actually have to hit ls. I was just showing that there's 2 files in your directory now, index.html and package.json. Okay, so to install those 2 packages, we're going to do npm again, -i for install, and we're going to do express, 2 s's, and -s for save, which will write that entry into our package.json. If you shared this code with anyone else, they could just type npm install and it would install every dependency that you've added using this command with the correct version, which is important. Sorry, not -s, -save. Why is this not working? Sorry, guys. I literally went through this yesterday. Let's not use short keys. So npm install express. Okay, if your version of Node supports shorthand, then you can do .i, but for some reason my computer's not doing it, so it's npm space install space express --save. I will let all of you run that. Yes?
How do we know even things supposed to?
It will fail just like mine did when I the first time. If you got this, boom, found 0 vulnerabilities and it looks like it actually did something, then great. If you got this error message that I got up here, where it tells you all the commands you can use because you didn't type the right one, then you did it wrong. Everyone good with that? Cool. So we're going to do the exact same command again, except instead of express, you're going to type socket.io. Once everyone has done that, you can go ahead and open the directory that now has index.html, package.json, and Node modules in it. You can open that whole directory in Visual Studio Code. Everyone there? Anyone need help?
So what did you do?
I opened that directory in Visual Studio Code, so you should see all of the files in that directory on the left-hand pane. Node modules, index.html, package.json, and all the other files that were generated. Everyone good with that? No? Wait.
I didn't get.
What's up?
I didn't see. I don't see any of those. Maybe I did it wrong.
Hit open folder, and then go find the folder that has all your stuff in it.
You have to go to, you have to open the location for your file.
So what directory? Oh, you did that in your user directory. So you downloaded that index.html file, right? So what folder did you put it in?
Oh, I just copied.
So what are you trying to do?
To where?
To this.
Yeah, like what did we do after
Oh, so after this.
Okay, where's that file saved?
NPM, so this is going to the modules and dependencies inside the file. You have your index. How do you get the stuff?
Do I really need this? Can I make this?
Yes. So all those commands you just typed generated those, but you're supposed to have done it in the directory with the index.html file.
It is okay.
So an empty directory with that index.html, and then you have to run this.
So did you install
index.html.
Express inside the dial? Okay, I'll take it and get that.
Install something.
Yeah.
So you have the file.
Yeah,
You don't need to go into the file. You just need to create an empty folder with that index.html.
So,
Copy and paste it.
that's, I think those, I don't know if
Okay, you also have an
it's file or, because I don't see any JS files, so it's must be the thing.
And so all those commands you just ran, you have to run them inside of this folder. So right now you're in user/query, which is not.
Create a file.
Yeah, index.html.
So you need to CD.
Called index.html.
Does anybody know how to change directories in Windows command terminal?
CD.
CD. Okay, just making sure it's the same.
I know.
So you have to type CD and the directory name that you're in.
These files.
This is like in the
And the
folder
file
and
needs
then
to
that
be
one
in the
file.
same
Yeah,
location as
where
where
is
you just installed.
But I'm missing
You did those couple of the NPM commands. It has to be in the same location. So
So I have
I think on Windows it's C colon. You need the drive letter.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. Oh shoot, he's already running it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be command T. Create a new. We need to see the location where that is. Do you know the location of where you just
CD
did
C
it?
colon
Basically, what I'm wondering. Yeah, where's the location of it? Program files.
Okay, I know.
Node.js.
Saying that's not a valid
So you need to navigate to where that location is on your computer and then put the index file in that location.
If you right click on your HTML file, you can get it from, you can copy the whole path.
Yeah, so I have two different folders.
Oh, CD?
Yeah, so I was clicking into the wrong one, I think. And then this has the package. And there you go. It doesn't have npm install E1 Express. So I have like two different folders. I'm gonna just click and drag and
So yeah, you need the CD and the
LS.
so you need the whole path. So you have
and then
documents
after this
whatever
install,
the
then
name
you're
is.
gonna do npm install socket down.
But not the
Are you?
I wish I knew command prompts better. I don't know how to do all this stuff.
Guys, oh cool. Are you doing, which one are you doing? AIT or SC?
We're trying to navigate to the location where it's at.
So yeah, so do
And then try reopening your Visual Studios with all those. I started AIT. So you should see new modules.
slam return until it's done.
What you want them to
I think I should have stuck with it actually. But I'm on. I think you have to do a project, right? And then the year project or whatever to get it to review. Pre-set.
And then now CD.
That's what I'm on.
It's actually, I can make one like a do CD.
So it wasn't,
Same thing as like you need socket.io. No express there. It's NPM install socket.io.
So you should take AI.
so now,
Was your undergrad in computer science?
Yeah,
It wasn't.
yes.
So
you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I did take a code boot camp.
And then you just gotta open it
That's
directly.
why I wanted to, you know, kind of have taste of it.
So kind of like, I do biology at undergrad, and now I'm doing this computer science, so I know how you switch, yeah. I know how it
So I think you're just in
one thing is going on there.
Go back to VS Code.
Now you working?
Get
Yeah, so I already work. I work for the VA. As a
space.
sophomore. So, yeah. So at this point, I'm just trying to further my career to become a project
So
manager.
you're in the modules, go back.
You need to
And then press enter.
You might have found this early times, but it's good. You just gotta go to uscjava.gov.
Ready to move on?
And it could be that's all.
Cool. So
You need to yeah, and I did
first thing you're going to do is create a new file. You're going to call that index.js. So there's this new file dialog up here. You can hit that. Just do index.js. This is our entry point for our application. If you've ever worked in C or C++, it's basically the main file. But essentially, this is where all of the code for our server is going to go. Everybody have an empty index.js ready to write code? Cool. So first thing we need is to import all of our dependencies that we just added. So we're going to create a variable called app. So var app equals require. That's how you import dependencies in JavaScript.
Created the
And all you need is Express. Next thing we need is HTTP. HTTP is part of JavaScript. It's essentially what allows the requests that you're making on your web browser to make it to Express. So var HTTP equals require HTTP, and then we're actually going to tell it that our server, so you're going to do dot server, and we want Express to be our server, so we're going to pass our app into that. Next thing we need is socket.io, so var io equals require socket.io, and we want to tell it that the way we handle routes, because socket.io needs to communicate with the outside world as well, so we're going to initialize it with our HTTP variable. Promise the rest of this isn't as boring as this. Var. We need a port to run this on, so we're going to say port equals 3000. All right, so that's all the dependencies. Does everybody have this, or working on having this in the next minute or two? Basically, the things we're going to work with are app, IO, and HTTP. Essentially, our app is essentially our router, where we define all the paths for our server. HTTP is essentially the layer that we're going to communicate to the outside world with. and I/O is our socket system, so it's how chat messages and stuff like that get back and forth. WebSockets are basically how like live updating stuff happens without having to constantly request from data from the server every couple seconds. It broadcasts out to you, hey, this is how it's working. If you use any modern chat apps, that's how like the little chat bubbles pop up to say someone's typing, and messages are sent back and forth. Rather than your computer constantly making hundreds of requests every minute to say like, hey, is there a new message yet? The person who wrote the message essentially broadcasts out to you, hey, here's my new message. So the first thing we need to do is get our web server sending back data. So we're going to do app.get parentheses. We need to provide a route. So we're going to do / which is essentially, if you go to google.com, you're essentially like going to that base route. And it's going to call some code when you go to that that route. So we're going to put a function in here, and that function passes us a request, REQ, and a response. So essentially, the way that works is your request is all the data about what was sent to us, and your response is how you are going to respond to that thing. And let's see here. So once someone calls that route, why is this underlining in red? Oh, I didn't put a comma in. Okay. So we want to pass back a response whenever someone accesses this. So we're going to do response dot send file. And then what we're going to do is underscore dir name, which is directory name. That's essentially the path of the file, the directory that we are in now. And on top of that, we want to add another string, which is /index.html. And one more line before we actually see something happen, or one more command, sorry, is http.listen. We're going to provide a port number for the port it needs to listen on, and a function so that it can tell us when we are done setting up the listen. And so that we know that something actually happened, I'm going to put console.log listening on port 3000. All right, so essentially everything we're doing here is setting up a route, which will send a file, which is our index.html, and then we're telling HTTP to listen on port, which we defined up here as 3000, and when it's done doing that, to tell us that it's doing that. So we know that the server is ready and it's up and it's ready to receive information at our endpoint. That was a lot. You guys are probably still catching up. Does anybody have any questions about this so far? What's that?
So what is the dir name again? It's like requesting that file to the directory?
__ dir name is basically when you run that code, dir name is essentially an alias to the path of the file that you're currently in. So, yours was SQL and /documents.js demo. It essentially drops that string in there for you when you run the code. That way you don't have to type out a whole path name. And like if you were to run this code on, if you sent this code to someone else, rather than them having to go in and replace your path with their path, you just run it. It knows what folder it's in, so it figures that out. The only thing we added to that was /index.html so that it knew that that's the file name we want to send to the user. Any other questions? Cool. All right, so we're going to run this. So if you go in your side panel, you should have debug thing. It's a little bug icon with the X through it. And you're gonna hit this big play button at the top. You should get a console up, and I can't read this because it's giant. Debugger not attached. Well, I have no idea if that works because I can't read my console, but you guys should have a message that says listening on port 3000. Good? Not good?
It said app.get is not a function.
Of course it did. Where did I screw up? Let's close this. Oh, I'm sorry. So after express, we need to actually initialize it. So after this close parentheses, just open close parentheses. That's a function. It needs to actually run. So save that. Debug again. Run. And everything should be good. So now, if you were to go to your web browser and type in localhost :3000, hit return, it should bring up this lovely blank page with a text box at the bottom with a send button in the corner. Anyone not get that? Awesome. All right, cool. So basically, all we're doing is serving up the HTML in that HTML file. It's somewhat unexciting. If you type stuff into the box, pretty much nothing will happen. So we need to make something happen. So we're going to set up a socket so we can listen for connections. So if you go back to your index.js file, after your app.get, gonna add a new function. I'm gonna do io.on parentheses and then connection. And then we're going to provide a function to run when a new connection comes through. So function socket. So we're going to pass the socket that was created into this function. And that function is going to run every time there's a connection. So if you were to type console.log connected, that should be a string because I don't think there's any variables called connected. Essentially, every time a connection is made, it'll just fire off this log message. But we have to make our HTML file connect to us. So if you go back into your index.html file, we're going to add a script at the bottom here. So after the jQuery script line here, you're going to add a new one. So I'm going to do script, and we're just going to write our code in here. You would probably separate this into a separate file if you were a good programmer, but for ease of getting this done, we're just going to write it right in this HTML file. So I've imported socket.io, which we need for obvious reasons to make the connection, but I've also imported jQuery, which will let us do some cool stuff with forms, which our form is the little chat box we got going on the bottom of the web page. So we are going to do $ parentheses function, which is the function that we're going to run, so there's no arguments. All right, so inside of that function, we are going to create an instance of socket.io. So we're going to do var socket equals io. That's a function, so run it. And that's it. If you save it, go back to your index.js, because if you try to run your index.html, it will just load your web browser, which will look like it did something, but it won't. And hit run. That'll run the server. If you refresh your page, it'll look like nothing happened, but if you went back and looked at your console, which I can't see because this is blown up, you should get a message that says you connected. Anybody not get that? Yes, sorry. I may have moved fast there. HTML. So just script tags inside that script, $ parentheses, which for some reason is an alias for jQuery, and then the function that we want to run. Yes.
Some errors.
Okay. We got it. So hit stop here, and go to Node.js, and refresh the page. Go back to your Node.js. Did it ever give you that information? Like, did it show the little chat boxes?
Yeah, so I think what happened was you never restarted this. So every time you make a change to the file, you have to make sure to restart the service.
How do you do that?
See that square? Yeah, it just means stop. Good? Need help?
Stuff with the command line I missed in the beginning. Do you remember what it typed in?
Yeah.
Now, into chat demo, we got the HTML and the getting that was there. And then the index.js, which I created, but we also had.
Oh, okay. You don't have the package.json. Alright, so
I'm going to do
using
that
Irish.
right now.
Okay, it should be the same thing. So type in install express. Okay. Oh no. You don't have to do anything else.
No dash G. Okay.
Sorry.
Dash G just means I think so you don't want that. You want to just be specific in this directory. Yep, looks like installed. Next you're gonna do the same thing, except it's gonna be socket. Actually, if you want to, and then just go back and press socket.
So that should say
Where did you do that?
We did FS in my one class file system. You wanted us to do dash G dash G files, so it's like on the whole computer.
Yeah, global. Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess that's a habit you probably used to. I assume so.
Well, that was the first time I installed something.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
I saw that he had another file.
No, that's package. I think for that one, oh, I think it's, yeah.
You know?
No, yeah, you can do that. So,
I don't think I ever did that on the offense.
oh, my bad. Sorry, we have to check. Hopefully that's still happening.
Like all of these function calls are ending with a
No, I closed out of it. What did you do?
Index.js inside of TU chat.
Type in, just do npm install. Do npm install.
Shall we find it?
Make sure you capitalize it.
Okay, so actually, just open this directory.
I haven't.
You can find
On this?
don't type TU chat email. Click it down.
Ticket Express, did I go?
And you just need to add this
Stop it.
Oh, okay. npm init. That's what it was. Yep. That's right. You need to initialize it. Okay, that should do it. Then it's going to prompt you for a few things. So yeah, right now you can just click enter. Then do it again. You're going to be doing it for a while. Until it says like a command saying like yes.
Perfect. All right. Anybody else?
And then you just type in yes.
She is one behind you.
Oh.
There you go. So now you got to package out JSON. So hopefully it should work.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm looking on the screen.
Go back to your index JSON. Seems like you're looking for it. And go here again.
Doesn't like this, doesn't like this, doesn't like that. It's like, it doesn't like the one six.
What's the error? I would still try to run it just to see what happens. So it's, we'll see what that says. Because it should work.
Not this.
No, you need space so npm space install space
I think you do that on that.
Yeah, sure. Anyone else? What's up?
Then it should come back to
Add configuration. I think what's happening is it's not getting the
I had a remove something.
Okay.
Copy it, so I said,
Okay, so
it's right here.
Alright, so
Because
exit
I
out of
don't.
this. Did you save everything?
Yeah, on that.
Okay.
Index that
So yeah, exit out of everything. And then try to open up a new window and then try to re-import it. So not import it, open the file.
I'm not even sure what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either.
There you go.
Oh,
You don't need to do
Now
that.
let's hopefully,
Just
I
open
mean, we'll
new
see if it works.
it's still colors on it. I wonder if that means anything. Oh, there it goes.
So you want to hit no.
Okay. Alright, so yeah, go up here and go to...
Oh, because look, I spelled function wrong.
Wow. How did I not catch that?
You're
Yeah, everything's right.
Alright.
Okay, now what?
Alright, so yeah, go to debug, let's run it,
it's still
and
not
you should be
running.
getting listeners.
Or at least it hasn't.
Okay, so, alright, so click cancel, alright, type in or go up here and then to new file.
Ah, cool. Yeah, it's running. So if you open up your web browser and go to localhost :3000, you should get.
And then you're
that already
gonna
there.
try to find out
So
where
you
the
just refresh
original
this.
one is and then open that one.
Message file.
And if you ever
Click on TU chat.
Yep, and open that folder. Well, you don't have to, yeah, just
Back
like,
to your Index.js.
Alright, in retrospect, it should work now.
So now you need to make a new file, index.js.
Scroll up and then close your modules directory.
In the node modules.
Control S.
Close. It's right here.
What is supposed to be happening?
So what's supposed to happen is it's supposed to stop like it's saying, hey,
Yeah, so you just need to go to files, copy it out of the files, and put it in the modules, and then
No, index.js.
So it just,
No, just JS.
Oh, there you go. Oh, okay.
Yes.
That is up to you.
Whatever.
Okay. I didn't want to like say anything, and then it's supposed to be saying it's connected.
And then you have to type in the command, type in the
Is it still going?
That's good.
Yeah, we did the lab.
Alright, and then
Yeah.
operational. Looking for a JS.
no, it's looking for your index.html to serve up. Do you still have your
No,
old
mine just automatically just runs it.
either rename it or in your file path just put
Close the console. How do you have control?
Control.
I would just rename it in, like open up your phone.
Yeah, it looks like it's
Go to
good.
your close your node modules because you don't need to access any of that stuff. And then just
The only thing is you didn't get it connected.
rename. You should be able to just click twice on it.
Is there another
Yeah, you just
thing
did
within this moment?
Okay, sorry. I guess the Mac version should be
No, that should be it. Let me go with that.
I was gonna say, she's ready to
So you're all connected.
cool.
What was it again?
So you have something that
So you're going to unzip that. Windows should have, if you double click on it, it should unzip it for you.
That's very strange.
No, Windows comes with a unzip. Yep.
I think your Wizards can be
What version of Windows? This is like Windows 7?
Yeah, every time it keeps asking for the launch.js file. Actually, I'll click. Okay, so
Yeah, you actually don't need an unzip folder in
hold on, let me check mine.
program anymore. It comes built in. So here's your file. You can just copy that out into your directory. Good. More issues? Yes.
Could you just open the directory and we not get it?
there's a lot of steps actually.
Go to. Alright, hit run again so that we can get to the long statue.
How are we doing?
Use intelligence.
Yes.
No, that's fine.
I think we might have created Did you install those?
Okay, so it is right there.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess you don't want to watch tattoos. So if you cancel, it's still in.
Install. Yeah, so it should be able to actually.
I thought I could figure it out, but that's just kind of weird.
Yeah, so you have to install.
I think I might be missing something.
Okay.
I know you had one more. Yeah, but now it says it can't find Node at all. Where's this launch.json? No, where is that file?
Oh, APM.
And then 3,000.
You guys want that over here?
This is the full GU down, right? Yeah.
Oh, it's APM. Sorry.
Try to follow along so quickly and like misspell something or
I do it all.
First we need to fix the issue. Oh,
I switched to some the index.html. I thought you meant just open soil, but I do that all the time when I'm editing HTML code. I will forget the period or semicolon and I was missing a period. And it just
I think we have this one.
I'm used to
Yeah, just over.
JavaScript, right? It's like Java, Python.
So good.
How? Really?
So
You're something just closing and opening and all of it.
brackets inside
Now the page, if you turn it on.
inside parentheses. It does not feel right.
So that was
Yeah, you gotta.
Yeah.
This I created here and just copy from this one.
cool. Alright, so yeah, so if you go to localhost, I'll one.
No, thank you. Yeah, it is.
Hey. How much? It's in the middle of the project. Okay, I'm glad you were able to
There you go.
Depends, I mean, just run out the guys going out helping people.
Index.js code up.
Yeah, you're a little like,
needs
I'll be honest, you're a
to.
little far behind. But I mean,
So that IO on function.
yeah, I got download VS Code and Node.js. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Also recording the whole thing, so
Cool.
I am.
I'm gonna leave this up
I'm gonna
for
put it on YouTube by
another
tomorrow,
minute, and then we're gonna add some more stuff.
So you can see it over there at the beginning. we make like a demo of like a Node.js like chat app.
Working it?
Not yet.
Okay, where's you?
He works at like a local company called Leafly. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, since I'm leaving already,
Did you?
just
Anybody from
guess I'll catch up with you guys on the other day.
All right. Yeah, and just you can also watch the
right.
YouTube.
I'm gonna move on. Who has everything working right now?
And it goes till.
I've been here for 18 years.
Okay. Maybe I should wait a little longer then. That was like 4 hands. Who needs help?
See a class on
What's up?
Oh, okay. So, I mean, that's actually kind of like this semester just
So,
our YouTube channel. Just if you can't make it to our events,
Open index.js.
catch up.
And then,
Yep. TU, software engineering club.
If somebody outside of the they wouldn't know.
okay. So open your localhost 3000 on your web browser.
If you follow CIS, then yeah.
Localhost, all one of those.
Yeah, this stuff's really cold.
Excuse me, 3000.
I'm not really focusing on the back end.
All right, so it just delivered the HTML file to your browser, and you get connected.
For example.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I wouldn't say like in the same field, but it's related. You can definitely like use them together.
Society though.
I've done some projects on it.
That's nice.
But it's not as fluid as like Node.js. But like some of these basic innovations, I use JavaScript.
That's probably the next thing you want to do is you want to type these into your command
Oh,
prompt.
I actually finished this off. But
Or having to take 10.
It's just like a menu for a
Who
restaurant.
needs help?
so it's pretty cool. Yeah, I should make these a
No.
function.
Who has it working?
Yeah, it kind of gets a little annoying.
Great.
It's all good, man. I'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah, sorry.
actual code.
Yeah, sure. What's up?
See the actual sorry.
That's, I like the little animation.
Oh, iframe?
Yeah.
No, I understand.
No, dude.
This guy, I think I might have overstepped a little bit.
Decided right
I'm gonna
now.
post this whole thing on GitHub. Basically, I ripped most of it. You just type in socket.io, chat tutorial. They have a whole
This also the way so
the link that I gave you before. I don't know. Okay. You'll post this.
Not really, because I mean, I've been in there for no reason.
I'll do like a mix with the every year so that it sits here. I feel like this would be much more. It actually works. You can actually just
I know.
check it
Maybe I
out.
don't know.
But you can actually order it.
Sure.
It's so much better than like the original.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can actually send it to them, but they don't speak.
All right, let's take a vote. Either I can code the rest of this live, and you can all connect to my sweet chat app, and then we can just do a long Q&A, or we can continue to do 3 more steps and help sessions in between. Who wants to just have me finish this? You can all connect to my chat app, and then I don't know. I can do Q&A. That lasted a long time last time, so I don't know. Who wants to keep going?
Yeah, just go ahead and finish it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'll post all the code on GitHub. So.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So I'll explain everything as I go, so you hopefully actually learn something. All right. So we have our connection function up here, which logs connected. Basically, when you access the web page, it connects back to your server. We have a connection. We're not currently doing anything with it. So instead of logging a stupid message, what we're going to do is take the socket that we have and listen to it. So I have caps lock on. an event. So you can name an event whatever you want. I'm going to name mine chat message because that seems like a pretty descriptive thing to name it. And then function message. So essentially, excuse me, what this is doing is it's listening for chat messages from the specific socket that connected. So let's say 20 people accessed our web server, it would create 20 different sockets, and on each of those sockets, as they connect, I'm going to listen for an event called chat message, and that's gonna fire, every time that happens, it's gonna fire a function with the message inside of it. What we wanna do on that event is emit to all of our other sockets that chat message. So I send a chat message to the server is going to then repeat that message to every socket that's connected to it. So we're gonna do IO, which is like a global, you can call the same functions on IO, which will do it to every socket that you have. Emit, we're gonna emit a chat message event. So chat message, I'm gonna get rid of that typo. And we're gonna pass along a message. So essentially this is the entire code for the server side of our chat app. All it does is serve up our HTML file, which connects back to the server, and then it listens for connections, and then on each of those connections, it just repeats back any messages that it gets to all of the other connections that it has. We need to do a little bit more work on our HTML file, because currently all it does is connect. We need it to be able to send messages. So, on here, we're gonna do some cool form stuff. So $, parentheses, form. Our form, if you look up here, we've created this form up here, so we're specifically gonna do some stuff with that. And submit, because we wanna do stuff when they submit the form. And that needs a function, so function, open, close, brackets. All right, so basically this function is gonna fire every time you hit submit. So what we wanna do is emit a socket event. So we do socket dot emit. We're gonna emit a chat message. And the message is going to be the value of our message box. So we can do $paren. If you look up here, we've named our input M because it's a message. So we're gonna get that, and we're gonna get the value inside of it, which is val, open, close, paren, and close that. And the next thing we do after we submit that form is we want to clear our input. So we want to do $, close paren. We're going to do something with M again, and we're going to do val, and we're going to put an empty string inside of it so that it gets cleared. The last thing we're going to do is do return false. Essentially what that's going to do is whenever you submit a form in a web browser, it goes somewhere else. We want to stop it from doing that. We want to stay on this page after we do all of our events. So, I mean, at this point, we're sending messages, but we need to be able to receive. So we're going to listen on our socket. So we'll do socket dot on. Basically, this is the same thing we did on our server, except we'll only have one socket connection to deal with, ours. So we're going to listen for chat messages, function, then we're going to get the message. And then so once we have the message, we need to do something with it. So if you look up in the HTML file, we have an unordered list that's totally empty called messages. And that is essentially the top half of our chat box. So what we're going to do is $paren and hashtag messages, append, and then we're going to append a list item, so another $paren because we're in JavaScript land. So we're doing a list item with the text of message, which we defined earlier. After we do that, we want to clear we want to scroll to the bottom. So basically all the messages, we need to know what just happened. This is indenting weird, so I think I probably made an error. Let's see. Open, close, open, open, close. Nope, I didn't make an error. It's just done. Okay, so last thing, window dot scroll to 0, comma, document dot body dot scroll height. So we're going to scroll the full height. So assuming I made no errors, which I probably did, I should be able to run this. And if I go to my localhost 3000, check the message, hey, send. Well, it's a thing. It's passing back a message, but it's null. What did I do wrong? Chat message. Message socket. That all seems fine. Let's go to my HTML. Alright, so we'll do some debugging here. We're going to omit just a string and make up, so hey, save. Sorry everyone. Okay, so it's sending the message, so this message is null. Save. Okay, so we're probably sending the message incorrectly. So everything's going up. There's that. All right, so that has to be wrong, right? Okay. So we need a hashtag here. Save. Okay, so
What was the scroll height?
1 second, sorry. Okay, cool. So our chat app works. I can give you guys my IP address. So So if you guys were to go to, how do I do this? If you guys go to that address on your web browser, you should be able to join my sweet chat application, and this may be a bad idea, but post whatever message you want on this sweet projector.
Go hold that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really sorry. I probably should have picked something a little bit more straightforward. Last time I did an Android thing because I generally do mobile apps, so really sorry, guys. I will stick around for a while to do Q&A. If you have any questions about getting a job in computer science, or you can get internships, or anything you want to ask me about the weird weed company I work for, that's totally fine. Has anyone? Can anyone actually connect? I don't know how your guys' firewall works here, so it may also be blocking me.
It's kind of slow right now.
I am also on the public Wi-Fi, so
That's probably
you guys being
different IP address.
So you're on the
if you want to, yeah.
Q secure.
All right, continue. All right, so my sweet new IP address. Whenever I get it, I'm not gonna connect it yet. Still waiting to connect. Still one there. Right? Hey! Everybody still didn't see that? Alright, anybody have any questions about this or literally anything else? Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Is this how you get to that? I'm doing connect. Oh, it's 117?
Functions misspelled.
What's the IP?
What?
The IP?
Yeah, 10.128.177.41:3000.
Any other questions? What's up?
Would you go back into the index.html?
Yeah, sure. Let's see if I can get this without killing my server. Sorry, index.html or index.js did you want?
HTML.
Other questions? Cool. So just to like explain what's going on here, we get socket.io with no arguments. It takes arguments, but just doing IO connects to whatever server and port this file came from. So in our case, it's localhost 3000, which is your computer, port 3000. So it that just establishes the connection. We get the form object. On submit, we run this function. When that function runs, we do socket emit, a chat message object with the value of our M, which is our message input box. We then take M, set the value to an empty string, which clears it out, and then we don't navigate away from this page. And then the other thing we're doing here is we take socket and listen for chat messages. This function runs for every chat message we get, and then every chat message we get inside of this function, we get the messages list, unordered list. It's UL, right? Yeah. The messages list. We append a list item with the text of whatever the message is that it just got, and then we do window.scroll to 0 document body scroll height, which essentially is telling it to go to the very end of the scroll height of our page, which is the bottom of the chat box. Yes?
How did you fix the message showing up as no?
I was doing hash M, which is not a thing, so it was sending no object to my server, which then got repeated to all the messages. I added the hash, and it actually found the message box and got the text out of it. Yes?
Can you go back to the index.js?
Sure. Can't really fit all of it on the screen, but that seems to be the relevant part. Yep.
Question with the code. After I made the changes to HTML, I actually lost the connected status underneath my console.
That's normal because you should have deleted the console message that you were typing.
When I restarted the debug, didn't have
I was wondering.
Yes.
I think
so.
it's just
In
0,
document
body.
the example inside of this connection.
Okay, like
I just did
in parentheses.
console.log connected so that we knew that you had a connection going, and then deleted that line and cut this up. So you try to load that message. You can add that line back in if you want to make sure that every time you open your browser, the connection message.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's up. Sure. Yeah, definitely. I will say I sort of stole this from a socket.io example, which is actually fantastic. It's very close to this. I simplified it a little bit, but I'll post a link to that as well. Because someone actually took the time to write out an entire explanation.
No.
Anything else? Yes.
So I have I'm pretty sure it's not done for some reason.
But I'm on.
So not C. Yes, maybe. Let me see what you got.
So that seems right. Right here. So on your connection, all you're doing is logging connected. You're not continuing to listen on the port. You need these 3 lines right here. So essentially what's going on there is you're listening for the connection, but then what we're doing that you're not is we're calling on chat message events, emit the chat message to all of our sockets.
It's
Yes.
not contrary to the chat box.
Is it just showing now?
It's not even showing it.
Go back.
Safari or something.
Let's see. Here's
Change.
This can be like pretend this is like another person.
would include your script. So you open the script, and then you're closing down here. Because and then it like remembers.
And then we have to refresh the page.
Now try to
So go back and look at your HTML.
because that
It'll come up. Yeah. So like.
I know you were using hashtag and something.
Have you noticed this? Like little step. Did you click send?
and you're trying to run with the other
I
on.
mean, well,
There's got to be a way to get it.
let me check the
And
code.
then this function.
Oh yeah, we have to change
This.
round change. See,
Save
JS,
that.
no, in it. Yeah. Here. Put or hashtag N over here, yeah, because it's not picking up that element.
Maybe that's probably.
And just restart with the green.
Brush.
Yeah. How come we can't consider? I don't know.
Yeah, so you close the code brace. Save that and run. It was the issue for running. You can do that.
Because like mine are sending, and I can see that it's sending, but it's not.
I can give mine. I think mine.
Like you can tell it's sending, but
Oh, have you checked iPhone now? The iPhone
It's 10 died. Yeah, I think it doesn't matter. I can check all the brackets right quickly and move to that major and then. Start scripting. I'm returning anything, right? So it means that it's taking the message and not just.
All right, other questions?
You had saved it recently.
Cool. I think that's it then. Did you have a question? You raise your hand over there.
So I had like where your
Forget.
but I needed help.
I'll post this on GitHub tomorrow, so hopefully by the end of the week it'll be posted. What's up?
What do those dollar signs mean?
So basically, we're using what's it called? jQuery. There you go. Thank you. jQuery is like a JavaScript framework that allows you to do like shorthand for a whole bunch of generally more complicated stuff. So you can do like basically $ parentheses is like a alias for jQuery. So it's saying like, hey, like when you do $ parentheses with like a tag name inside of it, that's actually dropping in like 20 lines of code that would like get that element out of the document and like run a function on it. So it's like shorthand for jQuery allows you to do like way more complex stuff that like people do on every web page, way easier with less code.
You see, like it does work on this.
I think the code you typing, the object you were typing maybe a little bit, and when you read, 10 stop into it. 10, and when you read 1.7.1.
So you run mobile or web?
Mobile. If it didn't seem apparent, I kind of suck at web. But Android didn't work last time because it took forever to download the Android SDK. So I'm like, oh, we'll do web. Everybody can do web. But, yeah, man. Striking out a little bit. But.
No, it's good. Thanks a lot.
Okay. You're very nice.
We have some project teams that focus on mobile.
This takes a while. Are you connected to maybe guest now?
What's the time-wise? What's that?
Time-wise,
I've never been